even though Ukraine is getting good marks for free trade agreements, we'll see what the results will be, but in general, we're cautiously optimistic. Ukraine is getting very poor results in terms of privatization. And, roughly there are, I think, around 3,800 state-owned enterprises. Only 10% of them actually make any money. So 90% of those state-owned enterprises lose money for the state. And so when Aivaras Abromavičius, the Lithuanian-born Minister of Economy, was in charge of the ministry, he was saying, "Look, let's just get rid of these. Get them off the books. 1 hryvnia, take them off the books. That way, the state doesn't cost the state any more money, because inevitably these are tools of oligarchs. They're parasites on the state budget. I'm not saying Ukraine should have all 100% private property. There should be no strategic interest. No country does that. But there are far too many dinosaurs on the state books that eat state budget money. So Ukraine, I believe, would do much better to privatize a lot of these industries. Now, particularly with regard to the Oblenergo's and energy sector, this is one of the, unfortunately, the failing grades that Ukraine has had in recent years. Now, under the IMF agreement, which is Ukraine's lifeline, which turned things around in 2015 economically, the $42 billion IMF agreement, one of the targets for 2016 was that Ukraine would have $300 million in privatization revenues. And then in 2017, this year, they would have $600 million. So $300 million and then $600 million. Well, how did they do last year? They did about $1 million. They came nowhere close to the $300 million target. Now, the way they were supposed to do that, there were 5 Oblenergos where they were going to give a majority stake, not a minority stake, but a majority stake. Mykolaiv, Khmelnytskyi, Ternopil, Kharkiv, a few others. None of those sales took place. They kept on getting delayed and delayed. And now the most recent news I had this week from talking to officials at the State Property Fund is, they'll privatize those next year. That's the plan. So Ukraine is not moving forward very effectively on Oblenergo privatization. The other part of the privatization that they were supposed to do in 2016 was the much talked about, never successfully privatized Odessa stateside port. Now the problem with that is, this is a classic example of how the oligarchs manipulate the system. So they basically put a poison pill into the Odessa stateside port. So the courts have ruled that the Odessa port owes Mr. Firtsh $300 million. So let's say you're the lucky Canadian investor who wins the bid, and you put up $150 million, which is at least the minimum value. Probably the port is estimated closer to probably $300 million. But let's say you get it for a steal, you get it for half price, $150 million. Well, the next day, the lawyers from Mr. Firtsh are going to say, hey, congratulations, now let's settle that $300 million debt. So whatever price you pay, you're paying $300 million on top of that, just to get Firtsh out of there. And then you got to hope and pray that the books are clean beyond that, and that there's going to be no other claims from any other oligarchs or nothing that the auditors missed. I mean, that seems to be the case, but with some of these privatizations, you never know. That's a lingering risk for Ukraine. So that's a problem. So the Odessa port side tender failed on 2 occasions, and there were no bidders, primarily due to this Firtsh debt obligation.